Who has guns? I do. Who wants guns? Well, according to the statistics, a lot of us do. This is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms, and in this podcast, I want to talk about who's got guns. And the statistics are surprising. The estimate is, in this country, about 400 million guns owned by civilians, which is somewhere around 1.2 guns per person. Kind of a cool number. Most of these guns are unregistered. What does that mean? Handed down through the family, no one's got an idea who owns them. And if they were purchased legally, up until very, very, very recently, gun dealers only had to keep their 4473s, the paper records for their gun transactions, for 20 years. They've started asking us to hold on to them longer, just in case, they want to do a trace on a gun, meaning it was recovered, in a crime or found as stolen property and they want to find the owner. Okay, but there's no way to actually figure it out. Those numbers are just estimates. And with all of those guns out there, the military has another 4.5 to 5 million guns. So, the civilians seriously out-weapon the military. Now, granted, most of their stuff is cool, automatic weapons and machine guns. Those tend to be good equalizers. Now, the number 2 country for private gun ownership is India with 71 million guns. That one actually kind of surprised me. However, let's go back to the United States. And what do we have here? Okay. About a third of the population in this country owns guns. About a third of them might get a gun. They're thinking about it or considering it. And a third of the people say, nope, never, guns. Bad, 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 bad. Now, handguns are by far the most common weapon for civilians to get their hands on. Well, you can get all kinds. You can get your hands on anything. But the most popular ones being purchased are handguns. And let me predicate all of these statistics with it's the number of people that actually said or responded to the survey, and they might not have been accurate. I'm sure there's a chunk of people that said they would never get a gun, or they're considering it in the future. There's a chance a chunk of those have guns. They just don't want anyone to know about it. But again, that's conjecture on my part. All right, so what are the magic numbers? For men and women, 39% of men, 24% of women. And the male numbers, I think, kind of fluctuates a little bit. The women purchasing guns is the largest, most rapidly growing group of all firearms purchasers. And looking at the statistics, we're looking at white, black, Hispanic, and Asian. It looks like 36% are white, 24% black, 18% Hispanic, 10% Asian. And again, these numbers are strictly self-reporting to a survey. And this was done by the Pew Research Center. So these guys, it's actually a legitimate research center. Some of the data came from other research places. And for those of you that think gun owners are a bunch of rednecks and ignorant, not so much. So it turns out that the gun owners, let's see, I think it's 38% have a high school or less education. 35% have some college. 28% have a bachelor's degree, and 25% have gone to grad school. That doesn't mean, you don't notice those numbers go way over 100. What I mean is 38% of gun purchasers have a high school diploma or less. 35% of the gun owners have some college. So all of these numbers, I would not call someone with a high school diploma uneducated. But the numbers of people with advanced degrees is huge. I never really realized that. And here's where, let's talk about some other statistics. Now, these numbers are for guns and guns in the household. So in Republican households, 54%, Democrats, 31%, and in the independent crowd, 42% either own guns or have guns in their household. So is it just Republican rednecks who are ignorant? No. I'd say having a third of the Democrats alone might help explain why you're going to have trouble getting gun control going through. The numbers are huge. Now, what makes it even funnier is 21% of Congress has acknowledged owning guns. Now, again, that's only the ones that admit to it. And things like for the Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, those are only for the ones that admit to it. So you could have people that are, in fact, gun owners that are not going to admit it. So let's continue with our interesting statistics. 1/3 of the gun owners have a gun. 2/3 of the gun owners have 2 or more guns. And I think that's split 50-50 with like less than 5 guns and more than 5 guns. And then, let's see, for the non-gun owners, 52% of them could see themselves owning a gun. 71% of non-gun owners that previously owned a gun could see themselves getting a gun. And 50% of the people who never owned a gun could see themselves owning one. And then the big reason, or the largest reason why people are buying guns, 72% of the people making the purchases said it was for protection. Pretty impressive numbers, and they're making a statement. Now, obviously, there's people that are legitimate gun owners that, kind of fall off the deep end or jump into the deep end and are, involved in shootings. However, that's not the majority. And the majority of the people, like me and presumably like all of you listening to this now, are legitimate gun owners, and we don't go running out brandishing guns at the first sign of trouble. So if you're implementing gun control, why would the legitimate gun owners be the ones suffering the penalties for criminals using guns? It would seem to me the criminals are the ones that need to be punished. Now, the other piece of information that I kind of stumbled across was something like the largest number of guns, and I can't remember where I found it, was in California. And they're having all kinds of gun control stuff, but again, it's not the legitimate gun owners that are creating the problems. Well, there's a couple of us. I actually had a coworker at one point when they lived in a not nice part of the city, up in Rochester, New York, where there was some gunfire in the neighborhood, and my coworker's husband went to get his gun and ran out into the street. I'm not 100% sure what he was going to accomplish, but I guess he wanted to be part of the armed party. So that's the statistics end of it. The numbers are intriguing in that there are so many of us Democrats, and yes, I am one of them, that own guns. It's tough to get gun control pressed through. The politicians can say whatever they want. They can attempt to introduce bills to get passed. But if you're looking at a huge chunk of the country being legitimate gun owners, good luck getting the law passed. And on a final note, let's say some laws were passed where you had to go turn in your guns. Well, similar to, I think it was Canada, Australia, New Zealand. How many guns do you think would actually get turned in? I mean, even if, the ATF were to show up at the gun dealers and collect the 4473s and go house to house, which I don't believe they have the manpower for, but let's assume they did it. How many guns do you think they would really find? And how many people do you think would go, yeah, I used to have that. I sold it to some guy at a gun show or something. I'm not advocating that, by the way. But, the reality is violent crime's on the rise. And yes, the data does show that if there's a gun in the household, there's more likely to be firearms-related violence. And maybe at some point I'll talk about that, but that's, neither here nor there. So, huge percentage of the country or people own guns. Another huge percentage is contemplating getting guns. So, having said all that, I look forward to comments, questions, concerns, ideas, whatever. You can call or text to 919-808-6480. You can email to info@quarterhorsearms.com. Feel free to visit our website, which is quarterhorsearms.com. And as always, this is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms in Snow Camp, North Carolina. Have a great day.